am Dr. K.AMUDHA from Biochemistry department. In today's topic, we can see what is hyperlipidemia and atherosclerosis. So hyperlipidemia is a condition when there is increased level of lipids in the body. And here, the lipid fraction which is increased is either cholesterol or triacylglycerol or even both, that is cholesterol and triacylglycerol. Hence, from the clinical and therapeutic point of view, hyperlipidemia are classified into three. One is hypercholesterolemia, and second is hypertriglyceridemia, and the third is combined hyperlipidemia. So, the elevation of the lipids in the plasma leads to the deposition of cholesterol on the arterial walls and thus leads for the atherosclerosis. The coronary and the cerebral vessels are more commonly affected. During thromboembolic episodes, in these vessels leads to ischemic heart disease and cerebrovascular accidents. The deposition of lipids in the subcutaneous tissues lead to xanthomas. The type of xanthoma depends on the nature of the lipid which is deposited. So when coming on for eruptive xanthoma, it is a condition that small yellow noodles associated with deposition of triglycerides. They appear when the lipid level falls. Next, coming on for the next xanthoma, it is tuberous xanthoma or yellow plaques containing triglycerides and cholesterol. This is found mainly over the elbows and knees. Next, xanthelasma or lipids which deposits under the skin and contains mainly cholesterol. Coming on for the next xanthoma, it is tendinous xanthoma or found over the tendons. Deposits of lipids in the cornea lead to corneal arcus, indicating there is increased level of cholesterol, that is hypercholesterolemia. We will see the first classification, that is hypercholesterolemia. This is also called as primary familial hypercholesterolemia. Here, there is in the elevation of LDL, patients seldom service the second decade of the life due to ischemic heart disease. The cause is LDL receptor defect. Receptor deficiency is in the liver and peripheral tissue, will result in the elevation of LDL levels in plasma, leading to hypercholesterolemia. The LDL receptor defect may be due to the following reasons, that is LDL receptor deficiency and defective binding of B100 to the receptor. B100 is an apoprotein. Here, substitution of glutamine for arginine at 3500 amino acids results in the poor binding to LDL receptor. This defect is known as B3500 or familial defective ApoB. And third is receptor LDL complex is not internalized. Secondary type 2 hypolipoproteinemia is seen in hypothyroidism, during diabetes mellitus, and also due to nephrotic syndrome and cholestasis. Coming on for the second classification, it is hypertriglyceridemia. This is due to type 1, type 4 and type 5. So coming on for the type 1, it is a rare. It is due to lipoprotein lipase deficiency. It usually manifests in the young age. A chylomicron band in fasting plasma is the characteristic finding. Hepatomegaly, eruptive xanthoma and abdominal pain are seen. So the type 4, it is called as familial endogenous type. This is due to overproduction of triglycerides by liver. The VLDL level in plasma is elevated. Cardiac manifestation are seen in the fourth decade of life. It may be associated with diabetes mellitus, obesity and impaired glucose tolerance. Next is type 5. The chylomicrons and VLDL are increased in this condition. Hypertriglyceridemia, usually secondary to other disorders like obesity, excessive alcohol intake, renal failure, pancreatitis, etc. are common. Other causes of hyperlipidemia includes hepatic lipase defect, LCAR defect, and also due to Wolfman disease. The third classification is combined hyperlipidemia, and this is by type 2b and type 3. So when you come for type 2b hyperlipoproteinemia, there is elevation of both cholesterol and triglycerides with excessive production of ApoB. So therefore, the LDL and VLDL are elevated. The abnormalities are manifested only by the third decade of life. So when you see type 3, it is very rare and it is due to increased levels of LDL and IDL. Beta lipoprotein floats on ultracentrifugation and a broad beta band is observed on electrophoresis. Here, the palmaxanthomas and vascular disease are noticed. This is all for hyperlipidemia. In lipidemia, we have seen what is lipidemia, that is increased levels of lipids, and the classification, that is hypercholesterolemia, hypertriglyceridemia, and combined hyperlipidemia, its causes. Next we will see atherosclerosis. Atherosclerosis is the narrowing of the arteries due to plaque buildup on the artery walls. The arteries are the one which carry blood from heart to the rest of the body. A thin layer of the cells forms a lining that keeps them smooth and allows the blood to flow easily, and this is called as an endothelium. The atherosclerosis happens when the endothelium becomes damaged due to factors such as smoking, high BP, or high levels of glucose, fat, and cholesterol in the blood. This damage allows a collection of substance known as plaque to build up in the artery wall. These substances includes fat and cholesterol. So over time, the plaque can build up and become hard. If plaque continues to collect, it can block the artery and disturb the flow of blood around the body. Sometimes pieces of plaque break upon. If this happens, the particles from the blood cells known as platelets gather in the affected area, and these can stick together forming blood clots. A clot can block the artery, leading to the life-threatening complications such as stroke and heart attack. The atherosclerosis can affect any artery, but it mainly occurs in the larger high-pressure arteries. We will see atherosclerosis and LDL. It is stage 1, formation of foam cells. Increased levels of cholesterol for prolonged periods will favor deposits in the subintimal region of the arteries. The aorta, coronary arteries, and cerebral vessels are predominantly affected by the atherosclerosis process. The LDL cholesterol, especially oxidized LDL particles, are deposited in the walls of the arteries. The plasma LDL is mainly catabolized via ApoB LDL receptor pathway, but a small part of LDL particles is degraded by non-specific uptake of macrophages. The free radical induced oxidative damage of LDL will accelerate this process. Later, the macrophages becomes overloaded with cholesterol, and these are then called foam cells. These form the hallmark of atherosclerotic plaques. we will see the stage 2, progression of atherosclerosis. Smooth muscle cells containing lipid droplets are seen in the lesion. During early stages of atherosclerosis, the condition is reversible if plasma lipid levels, especially that is LDL cholesterol levels, are lower. But when lipid is accumulated, the lesion progress when it is unchecked and the arterial changes become irreversible. Next is stage 3. It is fibrous proliferation. Due to liberation of various growth factors by macrophages and platelets, lipoproteins, glycosaminoglycans and glycogen are accumulated. Thus, there is a definite component of inflammation in atherosclerosis. This chronic inflammation leads to increased plasma high-sensitive C-reactive proteins. The last will come for the stage 4. It is advancing fibrous plaque. This leads to narrowing of the vessel wall when proliferative changes occurs. The blood flow through the narrow lumen is more turbulent and there is a tendency for clot formation. Prevention of atherosclerosis. Almost 90% of the cardiac disease is predictable, preventable, and it is also curable. Lifestyle changes are required for this, and this includes regular exercise, balanced diet, and cessation of smoking, maintaining proper weight, control of hypertension, diabetes, and dyslipidemia. The aim is to reduce the total cholesterol, which should be below 180 mg per deciliter, and we should decrease LDL cholesterol below 130 mg per deciliter and keep HDL cholesterol above 35 mg per deciliter. In this topic, we have seen what is hyperlipidemia and what are the causes, and how lipidemia causes atherosclerosis, and what are the stages of atherosclerosis, and what are the preventive measures for atherosclerosis. Thank you.